Again, we're at SharePoint Saturday Toronto, and we're joined by the gentleman. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. My name is Vincent. I've been MVP Officers and Services for a couple of years now, originally SharePoint.
Mm-hmm.
I'm based in Montreal, Canada, and I work with Lead.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's it about me.
Yeah. So what do you actually do at Leads?
I'm Office 365 and Azure developer, so I make sure that we have proper tools, people, processes to ship great solutions to our customers, basically.
Mm-hmm. So have you done your session already?
Was first session of the morning, so I had the hard task of waking everybody up, and apparently the coffee was effective, so I didn't have too much work to do on that
Okay.
part. But yeah, it's done.
That's cool. So you already did an introduction to Azure Functions and Flow. That's
right.
really interesting topic because I'm actually doing also a session on Flow and Power Apps. So probably now you could just give us some insights about your session.
So I first started with a scenario where you want to capture photos, make them approved by somebody, have notifications, localize people, and send text messages to the people to go check what the issue is. Basically, it's a solution to control bridges and so on. And I first started demonstrating the Flow part, introducing Flow, what does it provide, the many connectors, that it's a web solution, that it's cloud-based, it's very easy, user-friendly, and so on. And then I introduced functions saying, hey, maybe you're missing the geolocalization API, right? Because you don't have that. So maybe you want your IT services to build an API or a line of business API or whatsoever, right? That you can connect. So then I introduced functions to build those kind of things and to connect those with your flows. So basically the users can do 80% of a job, and when they reach some kind of limitation, they can call their friends, developer friends, which is new now because they used to fight, right? And to help them and say, hey, I need that piece for my Lego set. Can you build me that piece? And this way I can build the Lego set, and everybody is happy, and it's way more effective this way.
Yeah, well, but I think probably the bit where you use Azure Functions is where you top it up a little bit a notch in your business application, because Flow is a sort of like, you know, drag and drop, and probably any end user or probably a business user could use that. But if you want to top your game a little bit, so you'd use Azure Function. So where do you see, like, for example, like Azure Function also, let's say, where do you see it, like, taking the flow itself, or probably other tools that are using
for
Azure app?
any line of business logic, basically. If for your business you do that particular thing in this particular way, because it's the core of your IP, and that what defines you as a brand or defines you as a company, right? And that's not something you can acquire by purchasing a service, a cloud service or anything. That's a very good target for functions, basically, because it will allow you, your developers inside a company are good when they are building line of business code, not where they are building integration code or technical code, but when they focus on the line of business, because this is where they add the most value to your business, basically, right? And function is a great tool in that sense that they only have to take care of the line of business code, all the plumbing to connecting to the database, handling the authentication, handling scale up, scale down, scale in, scale out, is all done already for you by functions. So
you could also do, for example, verification and validations as well.
Yes, of course, or any kind of machine learning processing. Like, let's say I upload a picture, I want to make sure that that picture doesn't contain wrong images. Let's put it this way. Maybe I can use cognitive services behind the scenes. Maybe I can do any kind of metadata querying on the picture's metadata with a GPS localization, for example. Any kind of custom thing that you have importance for the business and that you cannot purchase as a service anywhere else. Right?
And this is actually brings us to the concept that probably you've heard that a lot. It's called serverless computing.
Yes.
So basically your code is contained within the cloud in Azure, and this is where you're basically just, you know, consuming those functions that are already available there instead of writing your coding blocks in your code. So now it's available in Azure, so it's exposed to everybody.
So as it's introduction level, my session, I try not to dive too much into the concepts of serverless computing and so on and so forth. But yes, of course, it's Microsoft response to the serverless market, basically. And yes, the idea is again to focus on the code, not everything else, and to write I think the strategy as a company should be, okay, we have data on premises, on the cloud, whatever, right? And we have line of business processes that need to happen, right? And I think all of that should be exposed as an API at some point. So the users can leverage it, other developers in the company can leverage it. And one great example of that is, for example, Amazon. They are a leader in that market. They rebuilt the company on an API model. Every time you order a book whatsoever, it makes something move in the warehouse, it ships something to you. Everything, all of that is addressed via an API. Everything at their place has an API that allows you to build things on top of other things and other things, so you reuse most of what you've done already. So this is also the point I was bringing with Azure Functions, that if you already have line of business code on C#, .NET, whatsoever, right? You can basically bring it to Azure Functions, use that line of business code, and use the benefits of Azure Functions all together, right? So you reuse and you get the most ROI out of it, basically.
Yeah. What you actually did with Visual Studio Code? So what was your main function? Because I remember that your name was on the release notes.
Yeah.
So what was your
Contribution?
main contribution?
Yes. So as you know, I also speak French. I happen to speak French as well. You probably hear it with my accent.
Yeah.
I just helped with translating Visual Studio Code to French. So whenever the Visual Studio Code community builds something new, right, they need labels for that button or that action or whatsoever. And first we build it in English, because the technical community is first and foremost in English. But then it's great. I know you come from Norway. If you can use the software in your own language, it's always better, right?
Yeah.
So I just helped a little bit with translation and providing Visual Studio Code in French, basically.
Okay. The release note keeps on opening each time I open Visual Studio.
That's
so
on
I
your
tell
machine.
you, I tell you good morning every day, but now I tell you good morning face to face.
Yeah.
So thank you for being on the show, and probably we see you at other SharePoint Saturdays. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Bye.